Hello and welcome back to Science Fiction Quest. I'm your host, TJ. Last week of the year, I hope it's been a very good one for you. It's been very eventful for me. I won't go into the details, but there's been a lot going on. I finished my first book, sent it to the editors, and guess what? I have to rewrite the whole thing. It's not that it's bad, it just needs a lot of work. So much so that it is easier for me to just start fresh and get things going again. So we'll see. Did NaNoWriMo have a full short story? Haven't looked at it since I finished it, so I will edit it probably in January and will publish it in February. I'll let you know where it is. What else? Let's see. Started another book because between NaNoWriMo and my editor coming back with my first book, I had this great idea for a second book, so I did that. And I'm writing another book. That one's regarding Venezuela, the country I'm from. That one has nothing to do with science fiction, so just putting it out there that I'm writing it. I should be done with that one between March and April. So let's get into the science and science fiction side of this. Last week we were talking a little bit about how to get to Mars, right? It's a long trip, it's going to be very demanding. Now once the astronauts get to Mars, it's not going to get any easier. Mars is a lot smaller than Earth, so its gravity is only about 38% of that of Earth. In other words, think about this. If you weigh 100 pounds, not that you do, but if you did, if you weigh 100 pounds on Mars, you would weigh a little less than 50. Well, that's great. Not really. Your eye-to-hand coordination to catch falling things and that kind of stuff depends a lot on gravity. You have to get used to the new gravity to get used to the different speed at which things are moving now. Because when you drop things, they will drop slower than they do on Earth. On Earth, gravity is 9.8 meters per second, which is an acceleration. On Mars, it's going to be a little less than half of that. So that gives you an idea that things are going to be moving in slow motion. That's great, you say. It'll make me so much faster. I can catch a speeding bullet. Not quite. You catch things because your reflexes know the speed at which they move. When you throw a ball across a room, the ball doesn't actually go in a straight line. It goes in a slight parabola because gravity acts on it. We don't notice it because we're used to it. It's like straight as an arrow. When you shoot an arrow, the arrow actually is not going straight. It moves while it's traveling in the air. So these are little things that we think we know, but we actually don't. In Mars, it's going to be very challenging for the astronauts at the very beginning because of that. And then we have the fact that their bodies will get used to that gravity. And then when they come back to Earth, they have to get reacquainted with Earth gravity. The other thing is that because of the orbits that are so different between Earth and Mars, their plane of rotation is different and they're ellipsoidal, which means that they only come close to each other once just about every 2 years. It's a little less than 24 months, but it's close enough as to make no difference. Why is that relevant, you ask? Well, number one, we can pretty much determine when they're going to live from here, from Earth, and plan for that. But once on Mars, things are going to be a lot different. To leave from Mars, you're going to need good weather, just like you do on Earth. Although the Martian atmosphere is a lot lighter than Earth and less thick and less heavy, you still have dust storms. And these dust storms can last a long time. You could launch through one of those, but it would be very difficult, depending on the intensity of the storm. If it's a really bad one, you may be in for trouble. And let's think about this. Your next launch window won't be for 2 Earth years. So this is a really dangerous mission. Let me give you my view. I don't see the mission going the way the book The Martian has it going. Remember, they have to leave because their ship is being pulled over because of the Martian storm and so on and so forth. Although that could happen, although very unlikely because that was a big ship. Most likely, the ship would be a lot smaller than that. They'll probably leave a lot of stuff there. They won't bring as many samples, and if they do, it might make more sense to send stuff up on additional rockets that they have inside of the main ship. That's one thing. The other thing is they'll probably be very troglodyte in their approach to Mars. It would be a lot better for them to try to make caves habitable. This is a project even in NASA. They're taking a look at lava tubes, and they're taking a look at a couple of very large caves. There's one that's a collapsible volcano that looks very promising. It's supposed to be incredibly large underneath the opening. So that would be very interesting, since if it is that large inside, given that the Martian gravity is not that heavy, then you could really improve the structural integrity of the cavity roof and use that hole, that vent, covered it up with something translucent, and then you can have light, sunlight. That's extremely important for so many reasons. You have to take into consideration that Mars only gets about 44% of the sunlight that the Earth gets. To put that in context, imagine dusk or dawn when you can start to make things off but not really. That's what it's like in Mars all the time. Because it's further from the sun, there's less light getting to it, and that has a lot of implications. As a species, and not just us humans, but just about every single animal on Earth, we need plants, and plants need sunlight. There's a lot of research being done. There's a couple in an island in Canada that mimics the conditions in Mars, both in temperature and in the amount of sun it gets. They've seen that cyanobacteria and cyanalgae work well under those conditions. So evidently, we would have to make a very prudent selection of what we're taking with us to Mars. We need the plants to generate oxygen, of course, and we also need plants to generate biomass. Turns out the Martian soil is, or rather could be adequate, depending on where you land on Mars. All the macro and micronutrients are present on Martian soil. So you can actually have plants grow there. And well, yeah, you could use the fertilizing ideas of the Martian, but it's not necessary. You could actually just go ahead and use the soil. You would have to have some sort of initial fertilization of the soil in order to bring it up to adequate composition, and there's some rather toxic components in the Martian soil that you would have to neutralize through chemical means. So all of these tells us several things. One, the habitat in Mars would be better served by a cave, a structure, a natural structure, already made, stable. That would be ideal. Of course, we have several problems with that, not the least of which is once they land somewhere on Mars, it's going to be really difficult to pick up and go somewhere else. It's probably not going to be feasible. You'd probably have to, just stick with your first choice. Although you are going to be there for about 2 Earth years. Still, a lot of that time is going to have to be setting up your habitat, starting the plants to grow, starting making sure that you have a safe area that protects you, not just from the storms, but also from the cosmic rays and radiation. Because remember, Mars' atmosphere is not heavy enough to protect you from that. So the Mars environment is indeed very dangerous for living things, and it's going to be quite an adventure. Well, that's all I have for you today. From here on, next year, 2020, I'm going to start making this videos more about my writing experience, and occasionally I will go into science fiction and science fiction tropes. Several different reasons. The main one is that it'll be more useful to me, to myself. That's a little bit egotistical, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. The other thing is, if I get any requests, of course, I will dutifully go through it and research it and try to present something good for you guys. And finally, I will try to make the posts about what my writing is in that moment. I found that through NaNoWriMo, when I did that, it was really good for me. And I got some really good comments about it. So, well, that's all I got for you guys. Happy New Year. I hope this was a very good year for you. I hope 2020 is a fantastic year for everybody. My very best wishes. As usual, if you like the t-shirts and you did not give one as a present for the holidays, you still have time. It's not 2020 yet. And just look them up at my stores at Teepublic or at Redbubble. Thank you very much and keep questing. See you later, guys.